In order to be effective in prayer, we must learn the power and the purpose of prayer. Hi, this is Barry Phillips with 10-Minute Torah, day number 1 of Torah portion V'etChanan. This goes from Devarim or Deuteronomy chapter 3, verse 23 through chapter 7, verse 11, which is a lot of material. So let's get at it. Let's try to cover as much as we can. The two first verses of this Torah portion, verses 23 and 24, read this way. Moshe says, "And I pleaded with Yahweh at that time, saying, O Master Yahweh, you have begun to show your servant your greatness and your strong hand. For who is a mighty one in the heavens or on earth who does according to your works, according to your might?" Then he makes his request. Please let me pass over. Moshe has been given a sentence, a rebuking, judgmental sentence of, you are not going into the land. This has been on his heart since day one of his endeavor. But he stood on Mount Horeb or Mount Sinai. Instead of speaking to the rock as Yahweh commanded, out of anger he cried, "Shall I bring water out of this rock for you rebels?" In his frustrated anger, he struck the rock twice with his rod. The water did flow out of mercy toward the people. Yah didn't have so much mercy on Moshe and said, because you disobeyed me, because you did not honor me in the eyes of this people, you're not going in. To whom much is given, much is required. Moshe is held to a higher standard, perhaps, than anyone else. So we have this sentence of Yah saying, you're not going in. But he is now at the border. He is so close. So he begins to cry out and say, please let me go in. Now remember what Yah said to him on the rock. You did not honor me in obeying my words. What are words? Words are the expressions of our being into the hearing of whoever the intended audience is, or sometimes the unintended audience. Words have power. When we pray, the effort of prayer is to cry out in agreement with whatever Yah's will is, and to invite that will to be exercised and demonstrated in this earthly realm. It's not that Yah could not arbitrarily just move and do what it is that he wants to do. Certainly, as sovereign of all the universe and as creator and sustainer of all things, he could. He has that power, the ability, the might, but he's given dominion over the earth, the physical realm, to you and I. And he asks us to ask him. He's asking you and I to invite not the interference, but the investment of his will and way into the midst of whatever is going on within our environment or our sphere of influence. Let's look at the word Chanan. This is the word pleaded. Chanan means to ask for or to implore someone to show mercy or pity or favor, to be gracious. So the letters in their Paleo-Hebrew form have meanings. The meanings put together in a sentence form would say, secure the strong powers covenant by those outside the seed of the heir. So those who are not in covenant and not a part of Yeshua's seed, not in the community of belief, it is an act of imploring and asking for grace and mercy to become a part of that. So the letters accurately say something to us here. The root of this is chana, to incline, to besiege, to encamp. And it's the idea of pitching one's tent or laying siege or encamping against someone or something. Gives me the remembrance of Habakkuk, the prophet, who complained that Yah was using immoral and unrighteous nations to come and be used as a judgmental tool against the people of Yah. And when he made his complaint, he basically said, I'm just going to stand right here and see what he says about this. Of course, when Yah was through, he had learned a lot more than what he originally knew. He learned the will and the way of Yah will prevail. So there are times that in prayer we lay siege against the throne of heaven. Now, maybe it's not our intention to do violence to it, but there is this mindset of, I'm going to bombard heaven with prayer. As the old timers used to say, I'm going to ring the prayer bells of heaven, brother. Well, we tried. The idea, though, is that we encamp against the throne of Yah until he changes his mind and does what it is that we want. So the question is that when we pray, do we change his mind at all? Let's ask or read what Rav Kook wrote pertaining to this. I love this, and I'll quote from him. Following this format, that is the format of besieging the throne, as he says Moshe did, it prevents us from grossly misinterpreting the mechanics of prayer. One might think that prayer is some sort of magic loophole built into the framework of divine providence, and that by pleading our case, it is possible to cause God to change his mind. Rather, we should view prayer as a wonderful gift which enables us to refine ourselves. Prayer does not effect a change in God. Prayer effects a change in us. It is only by virtue of the soul's moral and spiritual elevation that prayer has the power to annul a harsh decree. We cannot change the basic universal order manifested in a particular decree, but we can change ourselves. Then, as a result of our transformation, the decree is no longer relevant, unquote. What an incredible, overwhelming analysis of prayer. Rav Kook then is saying that if you and I will engage in prayer and then be transformed by that prayer, we cease to be the one that was decreed against. We are transformed into someone who is not worthy of that decree. If we could only find the way to pray in such manner. How do you pray? I've been a part of prayer groups where people meander in prayer, and it's almost as if they are praying for deliverance and for exhibition of Yah's power in the midst of our need, for world events, for national calamities, etc., much with the same intensity that they would pray over a sandwich at noon. I've also heard people pray who knew how to pray powerfully. Again, it's not in the volume of the voice. It's not in the wild gesturing of pumped fist or hands extended, stomping on one's feet, etc. It is in the passion and acknowledging the reality of the need. We don't glorify the need, but we need to be very, very thorough in our understanding of the need. Sometimes in prayer, I'm describing the need and Yah corrects my understanding what the real need is, so that then my prayer shifts and focuses a different way. There have been times that I've prayed and Yah's told me, stop praying that way. That's not what I need you to ask me. Crying out about the legitimacy of the need, passionately, fervently, and inviting Yah's divine presence and power to be revealed in the midst of the need in such manner that it brings him honor and glory, that it resolves the dilemma of man, that it exhibits the power of his kingdom that is due to come upon the earth. Such things are practical steps in effective prayer. We'll talk more tomorrow. And until then, shalom.